Today in the workshop we have the Festool MFS routing template, but first, here's the jingle. If you do a lot of routing in your woodworking, the chances are you use a lot of templates. The Festool MFS routing template system is designed to replace most of the templates you use, so it could be for you. Let's take a look. The MFS routing system comes in two flavours, the MFS 400, 400mm long, and the MFS 700, 700mm long. They come packaged in a brown cardboard box, so no sustainers to worry about this time. In the kit you get the normal Festool instructions. This is a cheap paper version rather than the nice glossy brochure we've come to expect, and that has the usual pull-out diagrams and multilingual instructions. They don't really give you a lot of information, and there are better manuals available on the market. And you also get a leaflet detailing the accessories and the part numbers that come with the MFS kit, or that you can buy separately inside the MFS kit. You also get in the MFS 400 kit two MFS 400 rails, two MFS 200 rails, a stabilising bracket commonly known as a puck, and a 30mm routing circle ring, two right angled brackets that are used for positioning the assembled rails to your workpiece, a bag of screws for mounting the right angle bracket, and a pivot point. You also get an 8mm round headed Allen key for assembling the overall device. You get the same components in the MFS 700, but you obviously get two MFS 700 rails and two MFS 400 rails. So in the 400 you have 400mm, the 700, 700mm. Everything else is the same in the two kits. As I said, the instructions aren't really that helpful, and there's two manuals that have been created. The first one is the Festool MFS Multi-Routing Template System by Bryce Burrell, and in that Bryce goes through the basics of the system, how to set it up, what you can use it for, and it's well worth downloading. I'll leave a link to the PDF in there, and even if you've not bought this yet, go ahead and check that out. The second one is the Advanced Cutting and Routing Techniques using the Festool MFS Fence System, and that's by Jerry Work. And he takes it one stage further and really shows the versatility of the system and what it can be used for. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. Go out and check that out. You can buy the rails separately, so these I bought separately in the MFS VP 700 kit. So I bought the 400 kit and then the optional 700 rails. You can also buy the rails in 1000mm and 2000mm lengths. Now the rails can be joined together, so budget allowing, it gives you an infinite length of template for your routing needs. And when you buy the additional rails, they also come with a bag of connectors for connecting the rails together to extend the overall length of the system. At their heart, the MFS 400 and 700 systems are basically a routing template, and they just form a square that you can adjust for a variety of different lengths. So the first thing you want to do is to assemble your brackets. The easiest way to do this is into two L shapes. Use your screwdriver to undo the clamping screw at the side. There's two locating pins, one there and one there, and an angled bracket that slots into the angled bracket on the aluminium extrusion. While we're looking at the extrusion, you'll see there's a number of these angled slots as well as the more typical Festool T-slots. These T-slots take the standard Festool clamping system that you'll have probably anyway, and these take a special clamp such as this one on the rail here to clamp things together. Making sure that your measuring gauges are on the inside, simply slot the clamp into position, line up the edges, and then using the screwdriver just tighten that down. You don't need to go too tight on that, and there has been reports of people really clamping down on that and stripping the end of the head. Once that one's done, repeat the activity on the next one. Line up the ends and tighten down. Once that's done, you then just need to bring the two L shapes together. So make sure that your clamps are loose. Stand it on its end and slot the two clamps together. One on one side, and that's it. Line the ends up and clamp into position. Line the ends up and clamp into position. Now if you've got all these ends flush here, this will be guaranteed to be perfectly square inside the template. And it is. The template works best with a copying ring, and the idea goes that the copying ring runs on the outside of the template, allowing you to route in the centre there. And you can adjust the aperture in the centre of this by simply loosening off the clamps and now I can adjust the length, and I can adjust the width according to what it is I want to cut, and that gives me that variability inside the template. And you can see if I'm using the 700 with the 400, I can get a longer length. If I'm bringing the meters or the 2 meters in, I can adjust this accordingly. In order to get the best out of the system, it's worthwhile investing in a number of these rails to give you what you need. With this set in its maximum position, the MS400 kit has a maximum cut of 320 and a width of 120. But don't forget, when you're using the copying ring, the 30mm copier ring, that reduces it because your router bit is not cutting into the corner, it's cutting into the centre of the copying ring. This comes with a puck, and the puck allows you to stabilise your copying ring. So obviously if your router was attached to this, it's going to tip into the centre. The puck simply slots onto the copying ring, stabilising your router, and you can see it's designed in such a way where it pivots around the outside of the template, making sure that you're stable all the time, but it's not interfering with the cut. The Festool template will work with any router system, providing that you've got a copying ring attachment for it. So you do not need to be investing in the Festool OF1400 or the 1010 or the larger router. If you do, the copying ring actually comes with the kit, and this is the OF1400, and we've done a review on that. If you've not seen it, it's worth checking out. And the kit actually comes with a 30mm copying ring, and that simply slots onto my base as such. So I can now use this template and my router to route out using that template. The angle brackets simply bolt on to any of the angled channels on the device, either on the top or underneath, depending on the situation you have. So once you've found the position of your template on your material, positioning these angle brackets and tightening them down gives you repeatability of cut on subsequent panels and work pieces. To put this through its paces, we're going to take this back box and we're going to inset it into this piece of scrap wood. I've measured the back box and we need a hole of 72 by 133 millimeters. We know that on our router we've got a 30mm coping ring, and we know that we've got a bit inserted that was about 6.5 millimeters. So the difference between the two is more or less 23.5 millimeters. So I want to add 23.5 millimeters to these two measurements. So 133 plus 23.5 is 156.5, and 72 plus 23.5 is 105.5, if I'm right. Sorry, 70, 80, 90, 95.5. So we will, because we don't want a tight fit, we want a loose fit. This will be 157, and we will make this 96. So I want to cut a hole in this piece of wood to fit this back box, and I do it by setting the template to 96 by 157. Make sense? So first of all, set this to 157. Which is about there, and I'll lock these short rails into position. And what you'll notice is, as we're squaring this up, this end is already adjusted to 157. So we just tighten this end up, and that will lock in as square. Okay, I now want to adjust this one to be 96. 96 is about there. And we'll lock that one into position. Spin it round. Check this, it is at 96, and now I can tighten that one down as well. And you can see that that's quite a loose fit for that box, and that's because we're allowing for the offset of the bit we're using with the 30mm copying ring. Just get a couple of scraps of a similar sort of dimension. That just allows me to clamp things into position without bending the template. Everything's set up. I can now just clamp this down. So everything nice and clamped. Just check whether or not I'm going to need the puck, and that is pretty stable, so I'm happy with that. So now I just adjust my plunge, take it down to depth, zero it out. That's good. The piece of wood we're cutting is a nominal 14mm, so I'm now just going to set this cut to 50mm, and in theory this should now cut all the way through. Let's give it a go. And all things being equal, this should now fit into there pretty well. And there you have it. So it's really that easy. So we've now got that back box inserted perfectly inside there, and that will tighten down quite nicely and allow us to do our electrics. What more do you need? That's the basic functionality of the template and how you use it. As long as you allow for the offset of the copying ring and the diameter of the bit that you're using, you can get really accurate cuts. You can see how nice and tight and clean that is, and that's perfect. So that's all I really wanted to cover today. I think initial views is, yeah, this is going to be pretty good. I've seen some tips where you can actually put a dry lubricant spray on this, and it just makes moving the router around it a bit easier. And I did notice when I was doing the cut, that did feel a little bit stiff, so that's probably something I'll go ahead and do, and I'll let you know how that goes. You can do lots and lots with this. It's not just about, you know, creating these rectangular or square templates of different sizes and cutting it. You can do curves with it, you can do arcs with it, you can do circles with it, you can do inlays with it. If you look at the two PDFs we mentioned, it also starts to use it in conjunction with the MFT table to give you square and accurate cuts. So there's a whole host of things we can actually do with this. So I'm going to create probably a mini series about the MFS, and we'll go through and look at each of those. But for today, I just wanted to unbox, introduce you to the system. Thanks for watching, hope you found it useful. I'll see you next time.